1701, and today we're going to talk about Pentagon West, A Doctor in the House, which is the third film in the fan film series about Barbara Benedetti's Doctor. I've already done reviews on the first two, Wrath and Visions. So we'll talk about the third one, which I believe is the one that's considered the weakest of the four. And having watched it, I can see why. The Doctor is not in it a lot. It's 28 minutes. It's about 28 and a half minutes long, the episode. The Doctor doesn't even show up until about 8.5 minutes in. And even then, you only see her because it's very much a Dr. Light story like Blink or Love and Monsters or Turn Left, with the Doctor not in it much. You see the regular players for the story, the regular cast. The guest characters are kind of the main characters in this. And one of them spots the Doctor kind of around the little college campus or wherever they're supposed to be. The Doctor herself, Barbara Benedetti, does not actually get a spoken line of dialogue until almost 19 minutes into the story of a 28.5 minute story. So you really only have the Doctor in play for about the last 10 minutes. Also, her performance seems more phoned in this one. Maybe it's because she just doesn't have a lot to do, or maybe Barbara herself just had other things going on at the time. But even though I know from looking up online, Barbara Benedetti wasn't a huge Doctor Who fan, she, in her first two stories, I feel like she embodies the character well. Like, you would think she was a Doctor Who fan because she's very good at playing the character in those first two stories. She very much feels like the Doctor. Whereas this one, maybe it's because she just doesn't have a lot to do and she doesn't have a lot of dialogue. And this really is kind of a story where if she didn't show up at all, the end results could have been the same, possibly. I mean, her main thing is gearing the main cast up to go confront the Dr. Komar of the story. We'll get to the story itself in a minute. But her performance just feels a little phoned in. She's not doing the kind of doctorish mannerisms I'm used to her doing. She just kind of feels there, like she's there speaking the lines. It's a bit disappointing because her performances in the first two stories are much better. The guy playing her assistant, Carl, he's fine. He doesn't have a lot of dialogue. Again, he's not in the story much either. But what little bit he's there. And he does feel like Carl. Like at one point the Doctor says, "Oh, that must be, serendipity." And the guy's like, "No, it's not. It just sounds like dumb blind luck." Serendipity. Which is amusing. He has a couple little amusing moments. The main cast, they come off as very amateurish for the most part. Now, the guy playing Dr. Komar is good. I like him. He has some really good moments. His dialogue, he does well. What he does with his blocking is really well done. His facial expressions. He was probably my highlight of the story, performance-wise, was the guy playing Dr. Komar, who is, I guess, the closest that you could come to having an antagonist for the episode. And then the woman who's jogging at the beginning, she's fine. She's not perfect, but she's okay. The rest of the cast feel very much people who aren't actors saying lines. I feel like I'm definitely watching a fan production much more with this one than the others. Now, the quality of the footage looks better. Like, the actual footage it's shot on looks cleaner here than especially the first one. I really like the incidental music. That's been true of all three. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but I really do enjoy the incidental music in these. Now, the second one used some incidental music from the Five Doctors. I did catch on to that. But in all three of the stories I've watched so far, I have found the incidental music very, very good. I especially liked the ending credits music to this one. I thought it was really nice. And then there's a couple sound cues that work well. Like, there's one part when Dr. Komar is talking, and he gets this change because he's reacting to something someone else says, and there's this change of expression on his face, and there's this kind of musical sting, this that goes with it. That's perfect. It fits it perfectly. Like I said, I think the guy playing Dr. Komar is really carrying a bit of the story. He does a lot with his performance, I like. Now, from the actual story point of view, it's not really that interesting. It's okay. It's basically the doctor's trying to, or the Dr. Komar is trying to find a cure for cancer. And he does, possibly, but not in a good means. He basically accidentally opens up a door between universes. It's dangerous radiation spilling out. It's actually interesting how it mirrors the concept that's in Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. When the 10th Doctor is explaining to them at Torchwood, what you're doing opens a door. You know, and then he cracks the window, and every time you use it, it opens the door bigger and bigger until one day, and he taps the glass, and it, you know. That's basically the same thing the Doctor explains here to the students that are helping Dr. Komar. Is what he did is he's opened a door, and every time he uses it, it opens the door bigger and bigger until eventually, no more Earth. So it's interesting to see how an idea in this story is something that's later revisited in an actual modern Doctor Who episode. I thought that was pretty interesting. The last minute realization from Komar is a bit cliche, you know, kind of when the bad guy's like, I defeated them, I can do anything. No, I'm better than that. I can be a good guy. You know, it's a bit cliche how it can just happen on a dime. To be fair, I think the story does it in a way like it knows it's cliche, and it's almost poking fun at it, but you can't quite tell. But it's just weird at the last minute to have that change of faith that he ends up dying from because he had cancer. There's other ways they could have really led into this that they didn't, maybe just because they didn't have time. Because when we wake up, we feel, you know, the guy's got a bandage on his head. We don't know how he got it. He's got notes written that he doesn't remember writing. You know, he could have been clubbed over the head and somebody else could have written it. Or he could have been taken over by something. There's all sorts of ways it felt like this story could have went that it ultimately doesn't go. That feels a bit disappointing. It was worth a watch. It's definitely my least favorite of the three so far. I still have one more to go. Although online, this is the one that seems to be held in the lowest regard by far. And Barbara's performance, again, just isn't on par with her first two performances. But she doesn't have a lot to do. The Doctor is not in this story much. Worth a watch. Interesting ideas. Not the best execution. Good incidental music, but worth a watch. So I'll leave a link to it in the description. I'll try to remember to put something up here for it if you want to go watch it for yourself. So, what do you think of this one? A Doctor in the House? Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down there as well. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I have a P.O. box down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. And a link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. YouTube memberships are available. Most importantly, thank you for watching.